I really like the idea of just designing tattoos and offering them up, because then you don't have those things that are kind of nagging at you. Like, for me, I guess nagging may not be the best way to say it, but for me, I constantly think about those things. I constantly think about the conversation that I had with the person and what they seem to really touch on or not care about. And oftentimes that will dictate how I draw the design. Whereas if I had just drawn it myself, I wouldn't have to worry about any of that. And I could just show it to them and be like, this is the most appealing spot for this to be in, and this is why I did it. And that's something too, I always like to explain that to my clients. I always like to explain like why something is where it is, why I did what I did in the design. And usually I find that people appreciate the design even more. Like recently I finished a tattoo on a guy. It was his only big tattoo. He had two really tiny little armbands. They didn't really, they weren't significant at all. They were really thin. And we did a big dragon covering up the armband and covering half of his back. And I finished the tattoo. I thought he really liked it, but it's one of those situations where you're looking at the person's facial expressions. You can't really tell. They're telling you they like it. They're tipping you well. And then their face is going, I don't know. So once I explained to him the shapes in the design, why I did them the way that I did them, he was so much more stoked on the tattoo. He was stoked that, like, I could see it on his face, that he was stoked that I made the dragon kind of militant. Like, the shapes in the design seemed that way to me. So because that belief or that thought was in my head, it made the drawing closer to that, because I was thinking that way, and I'm thinking of the type of person that he is and what he went through and all these things. That's dictating my shapes. And then I explained it to him and he seemed to like it a lot more. Whereas it could be the exact opposite with another person.
I think a lot of times people, clients, if they have a leg to stand on, if they can, like, whenever their friends see it before they even get input from their friends, they're like, yeah, I love how he laid this in this way because of this, because you told him that's what you did,
Right. I put the thought in there, or I let him know. I feel like that's significant, because if they don't know those things, then they could just like it, or they could be analyzing it in a way that me as the artist, I just never thought about analyzing it that way.